Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jason Coulter. Today's date is the 4th of the 9th, 2020. I've got a story here that goes back from the 9th of February 2011, to whom it may concern. My name is Jason Coulter. On the 3rd of August 1988, I was deliberately hit by a vehicle driven by Mr. O'Rourke. See Ambulance Report, Disclosure Index Document 001. There is no police incident report on file for this event, and the driver was not charged for the crime at the time. I have therefore had great difficulty in bringing this to the attention of the authorities and having it dealt with in a satisfactory manner. The absence of the police incident report has made it impossible to discern why the driver was not charged. I also have further claims against the police regarding the mishandling of the situation after the events. See my statement, document index number 065. I suffered a severe head injury, loss of livelihood, and a sustained abuse infliction upon me by the police after this accident affected me to the point where I had become a very heavy drinker from 1989 until I recovered in 1997. I have not taken a drink since this time and maintain regular employment with PBI Glassquip in Christchurch, where I have been working since 2002. I have an excellent working environment, and my employer, Mr. Raymond Ivory, respects and supports me unconditionally in my pursuit of the justice in this matter. I have employed a lawyer, Ms. Philippa Tucker. I have taken this to a local member of Parliament, Honourable Jerry Brownlee, and I have attended sessions with a psychologist, Mr. Graham Clark. His phone number is 03-348-5595. All of whom support me and will verify that I am a credible complaint in this matter. For details of what I have already done on my behalf, see the Joint Andrew files, which is substantial for a summary of Honourable Jerry Brownlee's main points, with which I strongly agree. See additional document 8. It is recommended this is read before continuing with the details below, and note the final and most important page of this document is actually missing from the Disclosure Index document file supplied by the police. Please note, as indicated above, I have sustained with this letter a folder of documents, additional documents 1 to 11, complied from various sources, and a disclosure index also numbered. These can be found in order and clearly marked at the back of the folder attached of my paperwork supplied by my lawyer, Ms. Philippa Tucker. There are many inconsistencies and fabrications in this paper my lawyer has obtained from the police and others with regard to this incident, and I would like this investigated. There were 6 people present at the scene during the night of the accident. Myself, my brother, Mr. Ian Coulter, our friend, Mr. Philip Murray, and the driver of the vehicle, Mr. Julian O'Rourke, his passenger, Mr. Anthony Chick, and the policeman, Mr. Phil Conn, who arrived after the accident when O'Rourke and Chick had left the scene and returned with him from the police station. Ex-Sergeant Tony Moller was the person in charge of the Kawerau police station at the time. Detective Sergeant Steve Hudson, who investigated on behalf of the Police Conduct Authority in 2009, is also mentioned here. There are a number of conflicting statements from each of these people, and I would like to bring these inconsistencies to your attention. Mr. Julian O'Rourke, driver, and Mr. Anthony Chick, passenger. I have previously and repeatedly made the claim that O'Rourke was a police informant, because the common understanding was that O'Rourke was the biggest narc in town. I cannot back this up, and it has been consistently refuted by the police, but it is nevertheless what I believe. I actually did not know O'Rourke at all before the accident, despite his claim that we were known to each other. So what I learned of him afterwards was hearsay, though it was based on what I would have called reputed sources. Mr. O'Rourke claims when he was interviewed in 2009 that he was afraid of his property and personal attacks by the Kouta family should his contract details be disclosed. See document disclosed in 061. He claims he never ever wanted any of us to know where he currently lives for fear we will come after him. See Disclosure Index document 01, number 017. There has been no physical or verbal attack nor abuse by the Kouta family, though he makes out that there is some history of this beyond one single incident, the one at the Coal Engineering. See Disclosure Index document number 017 and Disclosure Index document number 065, my statement detailing this event. He also claims he spoke to my father after the accident, and my mother said things like, "Don't worry about it, he's just a drunken idiot, so he shouldn't have been on the road," and stuff like that. See Disclosure Index document number 019. This never happened, and my mother will verify this. He claims my father said similar things. See Disclosure Index document 061. But again, no such thing happened. He makes out that had my father been alive, such fabrications wouldn't have happened. My father was still alive until 1993. He says some sort of blame would have been placed on him by my father if he were guilty and he had run me over on purpose, and that this never happened. So clearly, in his opinion, he was thought to be intentionally to blame. We always understood he was to blame. He just wasn't repeatedly threatened, as he claims. He claimed he is afraid of physical and probably and verbals. This never happened. The only contact that O'Rourke's family made with my family after the event was his parents coming to my parents' house to express their grief to my mother and to see if my mother was going to press charges against their son. See Disclosure Index document 0112 or 012 and 013. But she was too busy looking after me in hospital 24/7 to give this much thought. O'Rourke claims to have been very apologetic to my mother and that she made some statement like I was a drunken idiot who shouldn't have been on the road. This is not, nor has it ever been my mother's opinion of me, as proven by her attendance at the hospital and the fact she looked after me devotedly throughout my recovery. See Disclosure Index document 017. In my mother's letter, see Disclosure Index document number 013, she refers to the incident and says that she told O'Rourke's family this, but nevertheless had assumed the police would do their job and charge him accordingly. The only contact we had with O'Rourke was at Coal Engineering. O'Rourke claimed he left Kawerau to get away from me and my family. See Disclosure Index document 017. In saying this, O'Rourke clearly had either a very infatuated sense of the danger we posed to him, or he is deliberately trying to make it sound much more threatening than it actually was. With regards to the accident, Mr. O'Rourke claims that as he left the pub, he saw 3 persons in the road, 2 running to the left and myself in the centre of the road. This accident occurred 80 to 100 metres past the intersection. He claims there were traffic lights, but there were no traffic lights at that intersection either then or now. See disclosure documents, document number 017. He also claims there were headlights and there may have been another car that was either turning into the pub or passing him by. See disclosure index document number 061. Both Philip and Ian's statements swear there was no other car. See disclosure index documents number 061 and 009. He says he was cautious of the other car headlights behind him and was not going to stop in the middle of the road. This contradicts his idea that the headlights may have been a car turning in towards the pub, as he was by this point a far way down the road, unless he was very fast. In another statement, he claims another car was overtaking him, causing us to scatter. He claims I ran in front of him to avoid this car. See disclosure index document 019 and additional document 7. In his other statements, the car was definitely passing him. See document addition document 6. In his statement to Hudson, there is no mention of this overtaking. The car is behind him. See disclosure index document 061. If there was a car overtaking him, it would have hit me. I suggest he does not actually know whether there was a car or not, but it supports his argument to use the idea that there was a car in order to justify neither slowing nor stopping as he approached me. On his map, see disclosure index document number 061. He marks the spot where he hit me as approximately 30 meters out from the intersection. See photograph 1. However, the ambulance and the police car that attended stopped right up by Liverpool Street, which is 124 meters past the road he had pulled out of. See additional document 10. The police car stopped at Liverpool Street and the ambulance parked by me on the grass verb just down from Liverpool Street. So additionally, see disclosure index document number 063, he hit me considerably further along the road, and according to my brother, he was on the wrong side of the road when he hit me. See disclosure index document 009 and photograph 1 and 2. There was no other car. See additional document 10. If there had been another car, not only would it have had plenty of time to see us, see what was happening and stop, as there was plenty of space behind the fog lines. But following the accident, another car might have stopped to help. There was no other car. The police claim there was a statement taken from the passenger and O'Rourke that night, but claim afterwards that there were no sober witnesses to take statements from. See additional document 007. No statements from that night have been located since. This would suggest that O'Rourke was not sober. According to my brother Ian's statement, he had been at the pub for a long time and saw him drink quite a lot. See document index document number 009. Jack claims he did have to give a statement that night and signed it. See disclosure index document 026, and admits to being drunk. And O'Rourke claims to have made a statement. So what of the police claim that were no statements taken? See additional document 007. O'Rourke was given 2 breath tests and apparently was significantly sober to not be charged with the crime. There is also some discrepancies about where and when these breath tests were issued. In one vision, he is breath tested at the side of the road and then back at the police station. See Disclosure Index Document number 017 and Additional Document 7. If this is correct and he had already driven back to the station to retrieve the police, then returned with them in their vehicle to the scene, why would they breath test him at the scene and then afterwards at the station? This does not add up. O'Rourke had a very drunk passenger in the front of his car at the time and had been at the pub. Would he not have been breath tested there and then? In another vision, see Disclosure Index Document number 061. Check and O'Rourke were requested to go back to the station to make statements and for O'Rourke to be breath tested after I was put in the ambulance. In this vision, which makes more sense. Both breath tests were administered at the station and statements were taken. And why 2 breath tests, as Honourable Jerry Brownlee points out? See Additional Document 8. O'Rourke does recall his first test result was positive, requiring the second test to be done. See Disclosure Index Document number 061. So he was not sober. If he failed the first breath test, if he really was under the limit and was sober, why I would argue that he would have seen me approaching the middle of the road and been able to avoid me. He claims he had his lights on full beam. See Disclosure Index Document number 061. I don't think he was sober. My brother's statement supports this. His actions and inconsistencies in his statements and claims support this. And I would argue that the police did not do their job properly in establishing this at the time. Or perhaps they ignored his intoxicated state. I don't know. Either way, how does being under the limit prevent him from being charged with hitting a person with his vehicle? It is my understanding that under no circumstances is hitting a person with a moving vehicle considered an accident that can avoid legal consequences. It is also my understanding that the driver leaving the scene of an accident is classed as a hit and run. Some questions I have. Why didn't the police interview Ian and Philip that night? See Disclosure Documents Index 009. Philip can't remember the police even being there and was never interviewed by the police afterwards. See Disclosure Document number 063. So can they really say there were no sober witnesses at the time of the accident? See Disclosure Index Document 003. Why didn't the police interview Philip? And what did the police class as sober? They took a statement of Chick, who was intoxicated and asleep at the time of the accident. See Disclosure Index Document number 026. And Ian and Philip were nowhere near as drunk as him. So why did they not take statements of them? O'Rourke claims I was in the centre of the road and ran out in front of the car. He also claims he was in second gear when he hit me and not going very fast, and that he was driving in the correct lane. See Disclosure Documents 061 and Additional Document 6. He claims that there were 3 people on the road, suggested I was closer than 10 to 15 meters behind my brother and Philip. I would have stopped because I would have known he was coming and waited for him to pass. It is completely uncharacteristic for me to have stepped out in front of a car, no matter how drunk I was. According to Ian, he was going very fast and following an argument in the pub over a pool game. Tried to hit all of us on purpose and was on the wrong side of the road. See disclosure index document number 009. We were crossing the road at the time I was hit, not walking along the side of the road, and we were walking in a line from the right hand side of the road to the left hand side of the road on an angle. This left hand side is the correct lane O'Rourke should have been driving in. When O'Rourke approached, Ian and Philip had already crossed over and were nearly at the other side. I was apparently approaching the centre line. We were walking at such an angle, see photograph 2, that I was always going to be the first victim. If Ian's statement about running us all over intentionally is taken to face value, he states he saw us and put his lights on full so we would see him. He makes the outrageous claim I was being coached across the road. However, I had not yet reached the side of the road he claims to have been driving on, and he had to have been outside his lane to have hit me. See disclosure index document number 009. Philip's statement also supports the notion that I was hit head on. See disclosure index document number 014. I might also point out that the fact that O'Rourke claims I was being coached, if that was true, which it isn't, actually backs up the claim made by my brother and Philip that they saw me being hit and can therefore verify events. If he had been driving that slowly, I would have gone under the car, not over the top of it, and I would certainly not have landed 80 metres up the road by Liverpool Street. If he had been driving a Datsun 1200 Whiteside Ute, then the model only has a 1200cc motor, and there is no way he would have achieved any speed while still in second gear. He would have had to be flooring it to get up any speed. Also, he says he thinks it was his father's truck because his father gave him a hard time about it after. See disclosure index document 061. This is strange. I am assuming he would have known whose vehicle it was. He also recalls the damage to the ute. The right hand wiper arm was missing and the shield by the right window was smashed. Assuming this damage report is correct, the only angle that made sense and could project me over the vehicle having been hit head on and to land on the left side of the road near the fog line is if he were driving on the wrong side of the road. Heading diagonally towards the right hand side of the road where he eventually parked. This is previously in accordance with my brother's claim that he attempted to run all three of us over or down with his vehicle at speed, and fits with the description of the pattern we were walking in. The Detective Sergeant Steve Hudson dismisses this. He writes, "It would be physically impossible to maneuver a vehicle in this manner based on Ian's description of where persons were, additional document 9. This is untrue. I am suggesting he started on the left hand side of the road, veered into the middle, hit me head on with the front right corner of his vehicle, and then came to a stop on the right hand side. And in subsequent conversations with Ian, he has confirmed that this is indeed where and how he hit me. If I had walked out in front of him, there would surely have been damage on the front of the vehicle. I would like to add that if all O'Rourke's claims are taken together and he was a responsible sober driver proceeding in second gear, has just pulled out 30 metres from the pub intersection and he had put his lights similarly on full beam to alert us and was aware of another car, then why does he not know where this car was? Why was he not able to stop in time or at least slow down? Why was I hit 80 to 100 metres down the road on the wrong side of the road? Why did he have to pull over to the right instead of the correct left-hand side? How did the significant part of the vehicle get damaged, and why did I fly over the car instead of going under it? O'Rourke and the police both claim he was under the limit, though the driver knew exactly what he was doing and had plenty of room to stop. See photograph 1 and 2. O'Rourke also states he helped drag me off the road and him and his passenger. Check. Supply medical assistance. See additional document 6 and disclosure index document number 061. But according to Philip, O'Rourke got out of the car but never came over as Ian threatened him. See the document index document 063. Please note that O'Rourke never mentions the passengers in his 2007 or his 2008 statements. The first time he seems to recall the existence of his passenger is the 7th of December 2009, disclosed in document number 061. Detective Sergeant Steve Hudson notes that O'Rourke was never convinced as to the identity of his passenger when he was phoned on the 25th of September 2007. See Discipline Index document 023. The request that the passenger was spoken to was actually come from Honourable Jerry Brownlee in the letter he dated the March the 19th 2009. So Check was not spoken to with regard to this matter until after this. See document number 023. Yet he always appears in my brother's recollection of the night as detailed in his statement. See disclosure index document number 009. Also, why is it that O'Rourke can clearly remember 3 people on the road and yet forgot to mention his passenger? In Ian and Philip's statement and also O'Rourke's statements to the police before the interview with Steve Hudson, there is no mention of the passenger even getting out of the car. Yet O'Rourke claims he left Check at the site of the accident when he went to get the police. See disclosure index document number 061. My brother's statement directly contradicts this. See disclosure index document number 009. In my brother's, Philip's and O'Rourke's statement, see disclosure index document number 003, 009, 010, 014, 017, 063. Nobody saw the passenger get out of the car. O'Rourke and his passenger drove off, leaving the scene of the crime, so there is no way the passenger could have gotten out of the car. How could he have done what he states? See his document number 026. The first mention Ian makes about Check is that he pulled him out of the police car when O'Rourke had returned with the police, and the police had to stop him from being more aggressive with Check. See disclosure index document number 009. Why would my brother make such a statement, admit to his aggression at the time, and claim that the police had to intervene and stop him if it were untrue? That is, if Check had been left at the scene and assisted, I cannot see what the point of this would be. Check was not, as O'Rourke claims, left at the scene to help. If he had, my brother would have admittedly lay into him, and Check was unscratched. Check himself claims he was very drunk and asleep at the time and got left at the scene where he had to settle things down so O'Rourke could go and get the cops. See disclosure index document 026. He also says that O'Rourke phoned him ahead of time to let him know he might be interviewed about this, and he makes some assumptions about what happened which supports O'Rourke, such as concluding he must have not been drunk because he passed 2 breath tests, and that they must have been on the right side of the road because they pulled over to the left. This contradicts Philip's statements. He clearly says the car pulled over on the wrong side of the road. See Disclosure Index document number 063. The trajectory of my flight through the air also suggests they hit me on the wrong side from me to land where I did, approximately the centre of the road. How did Chick know all of this when he was drunk and asleep at the time, and never got out of the car before heading to the police to get the police with O'Rourke? His answer is basically that this is what O'Rourke told him. See Disclosure Index document number 026. He does not recall another car, but it is my contention that he actually does not recall anything at all. I suggest O'Rourke coached him at the time, and then again before he was interviewed more recently. My brother dragged me off the road. My brother dragged me off the road further to the left side onto the grass verge and took care of me until the ambulance arrived. And he did this before O'Rourke and Chick had left the scene. See additional document 10. He went directly to me, then O'Rourke's car, and was certainly swearing and threatening towards O'Rourke and Chick, both before they returned with the police. Mr. O'Rourke claimed that he and Chick helped drag me off the road, and that they helped out at the scene and were the good Samaritans. In this case is absolutely false. See Disclosure Index document number 061. Ian was the one who retrieved me because Philip was arguing that they ought not move me off the road, whereas Ian did not want me to be hit by another car. Tony Godfrey Moller, ex-sergeant, Kawerau Police Station. Mr. Moller claims in his statement, see Disclosure Index document number 019, that I harassed Mr. O'Rourke on a number of occasions following the accident. This is not correct. There was only one incident and it was not planned. See Disclosure Index document 065 for details. Mr. Moller claims that him and Mr. O'Rourke did not wish to send me to court for the comparison reasons, and that I received a warning instead. This warning, as I recall, was that I would be going to jail for a very long time if I went anywhere near Julian O'Rourke again. See Disclosure Index document 065. I believe it was not in their interest to send me to court or officially charge me in any way at this time, as I may have made a lot of noise about the cover-up of the accident and the questioned assaults. However, they did not hesitate to send me to court on assault charges twice during the 90s on completely unrelated matters. Both instances occurred before I gave up drinking, and I take full responsibility for them. In relation to the assault complaint, Mr. Moller states that it was a load of rubbish. See Disclosure Index document number 005. Then why did the police pick me up from home in front of my mother and take me back to Kawerau Police Station on several occasions? See Disclosure Index document number 013. Why did the police pick me up off the street several times and take me back to the Kawerau Police Station? Detectives Sergeant Steve Hudson directly responds to my complaint and suggests that perhaps the police came to pick me up on significant years. It was months. For other offences, additional document 9. Yet, on my police record, see Disclosure Index document number 004, there are no traffic or criminal charges of instance whatsoever between September 1985 and October 1991. So why did they pick me up on these occasions in 89 or 1989? Mr. Moller also claims myself and my brother were well known to the police as druggies and alcohol abusers before the incident and after. Mr. Moller claims he has no recollection of the accident, but as Honourable Jerry Brownlee points out, Kawerau is a small town, and Mr. Moller seems to recall the bad behaviour of my brother and myself before and after the incident. See additional document 8. This makes no sense. In his first statement, see Disclosure Index document number 019, he claimed I was a druggie before the incident, but in his second statement, see Disclosure Incident document number 005, he extends this claim to say I was a druggie after the incident as well. Not only was I never a habited drug user, but the last time I used marijuana was 1987, well before the accident. I was never involved seriously in drugs, and I was never a criminal, though I will admit to having been a drinker. I was not a heavy drinker until after the accident and subsequent assaults from the police. He seems to be trying to make me appear less reliable than I actually am by making this statement. I have never had a legal drug except my mid-teen use of marijuana, and I haven't touched alcohol for 13 years. I have not got any drug convictions to my name. The claim Mr. Moller makes, see Disclosure Index document number 019, that I was involved in growing and distributing marijuana is false. The morning he caught me with a bag of marijuana, he did not charge me, but charged my brother, as he knew very well that this was not mine. My brother handed it to me that day, panicking, says, "Do something with it," and then took it back. Hence, he copped the drug charge. It was not our family home, as he claims. It was my brother's home, Holyoke Crescent. He also mentions an incident when he apprehended my brother in the forestry with marijuana and links this to weapons and threats. He gets the name of the Tasman forestry manager wrong. According to my brother, it was Brian Reeder who accompanied him, not Alan Baker. And he claims he saw a blue Hillman Hunter car and estimates this was my brother's, though this was not the car my brother was in this occasion. Moller has his facts wrong, but the bigger point here is why is it necessary to go into such detail in his statement on these matters when they are A, not relevant, and B, largely exacerbated, and C, apply more to my brother than me. I can only assume he wishes to draw attention away from the matter he is trying to refute, which is the poor handling of the accident itself and the future failure of the police to bring justice to bear in this matter, and the further assault allegations being brought against him and his officers. I suspect, as with many small town police stations during this time, there was also racism motivation behind the discrimination towards myself and my brother, but I have no documents to prove this. Philip's statement identifies Moller as a hard but fair. See Disclosure Index document 063. Detective Steve Hudson actually Clyde Murray's, see document number 9, he writes, even Mr. Murray describes Mr. Moller as a hard man but a fair one. I will offer that information that Philip's brother Shane is married to Moller's stepdaughter, so he is naturally braised. I also notice that his second statement is a little different to his original and has speculated on whether his family connection has influenced his memory of events. Despite this, his statements overall do fabricate support that of my brothers, not the variety claims made by O'Rourke and the pillar interpretations offered by the police to justify their actions and inactions with regard to this matter. In fact, Ian and Philip have not seen nor spoken to each other for over 20 years. Further to the above. Firstly, it has taken me a particular long time to find the strength and the support to be able to deal with this situation. The injury itself, my recovery, assaults by the police, and my alcoholism were obstacles I had to overcome in order to fulfill compensation and the injustice that has occurred here. I have been told many times that I may have waited too long. I would hope that I have not, and that justice is still possible. Points I'd like to raise. There is no incident report for this event, as stated earlier. I am unconvinced that there was ever proper police paperwork completed for this accident, as the police have been notably vague with respect to the events I have covered about. Shirley Jones, see Disclosure Index Document number 020, was consulted as to whether she recalled typing up this event and claims she does not. However, she is now elderly, so this is perhaps unsurprisingly. Moller, on the other hand, seems to have a very good recall of mine and my family's character, alert and appraised views, and yet he only vaguely recalls this happening. My brother is the only one who can remember Constable Phil Conn, who attended that night, and yet Mr. Conn has no recollection either. O'Rourke and Check cannot remember the name of the attending policeman. Christchurch is a very small town, so I find this very difficult to believe. I am alarmed by the inconsistencies in all the statements taken with regards to this event, especially that of Mr. Anthony Checks, who appears to be quite blatantly reading off the sequences of events as if he has been coached. O'Rourke did ring him before he was interviewed, so perhaps he was coached. There are also multiple inconsistencies in O'Rourke's statements, as has been pointed out laboriously above. I can only conclude that the police must have stronger evidence than that I access to, as I cannot understand how this whole matter has been dismissed so quickly. The only witnesses that night were my brother, Philip, and O'Rourke, and unless there is an impartial and a sensitive review of these statements and the incomplete paperwork I have painstakingly completed in order to make this review possible, I don't see how this could be a closed case, or in fact no case at all as far as the police are concerned. As stated earlier, this accident has seriously impacted on my life. My first and foremost concerns is that I receive justice in this matter. I would dearly like to be compensated for my loss of livelihood, but I have no idea how one retrieves 20 years of one life. It's now 30. At the very least, I would like someone to take my concerns seriously and recognise as Honourable Jerry Brownlee has pointed out in his letter of support, that there has been a severe miscarriage of justice here. Thank you.